and talking to people and stating the obvious at this point, I think is what everybody should do in some way or another. You don't have to do a hunger strike, but you need to make yourself active in some way. And our friend Rick had been going down there and checking on him every day and talking to him and keeping him company to some extent, because it's there's not a whole lot to do when you're sitting there starving yourself for a purpose that people refuse to recognize as they drive by and walk by and think, oh, there's a homeless vet or something like that, So
104 and 107 degrees.
Yeah, definitely. So it takes a lot of commitment and integrity, and I applaud him for having the sanity, the logic, and the reason to stop after 18 days. He started on Memorial Day, which was the same day we started composing the film for Toronto, and the film opens up with actually your interview of him, a couple minutes of that, and then a quick video clip of him talking on day 6. And basically the message to the people in the beginning of the film is, there's somebody out there who's a logical, reasonable human being, an adult, a professor, who is starving himself right now because you will not look at this, and the rest of our heroes are dying to get your attention. So, I think it warrants at least being screened. I don't expect to win any awards, and it's not for sale. Our purpose isn't to raise money, but we do expect people to watch it because the content needs to be seen, and they're not going to show it to you on TV.
Absolutely. Well, the first couple of days into it, I went down and met him in person. And he had a couple of guys working with him, and I asked, what's the response been? And he says, some people drive by, give them the finger, or scream out crackpot or whatever. But Blair himself knew that he wouldn't get any good attention until at least the 6th day in. And the local paper, the same one that ripped apart the local 9/11 conference that I spoke at 2 years ago, wrote even another demonistic piece about Blair, trying to marginalize him. But sure as magic, by the 7th or 8th day, and a lot of us, really started hammering the news here locally, they started writing positive articles about what he was doing. So, what they say. First they say you're crazy, and then eventually they realize, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. But here you have somebody, and I asked him, why this? And he said, because I had to do something, and I figured out that this was something I could do. I don't know, I have no great expectation that McCain is going to talk to me, but I have to do something.
Whoa.
That's how you guys there?
Yeah, I guess that was just your energy heating it up.
Like a foghorn. And I think that a lot of Americans are frustrated and they want to do something too. They just don't know what to do.
Well, and they have no outlet there, and they have no voice, and there's no platform which represents them and their interests. And so I think that, there's a big black hole out there where people, I think that they are motivated, but there's really nothing out there to help them outside of what we're doing here and what you're doing and, what people like Blair are doing. But that's disparate, and it's time for some type of organization to come together and be that voice.
Right. Well, might as well be us. Oh, it is us.
Well, and the other thing...
Imagine if we had actual money to really promote what we do, how fast we can get Americans behind us and change things in no time flat. But I think one of the big things is, which I said at that conference, you people only have 2 votes. You vote with your fork and you vote with your dollar. And there's no better way to bring it all down is to just stop spending your money. If you're lucky enough to still have some money, starve the corporations. But people still want to shop, the big box stores because they want to save, $1 or $2 on crap that they've been convinced they need. We pay for our own demise, which is crazy if you think about it.
Well, it is crazy, and it's not just that. There's a lot of families right now that are living, there's a huge percentage that live below the poverty line, just in our town and in Hartford and in Bridgeport, the biggest cities in Connecticut, and those families have no choice but to go to some place like Walmart and buy everything, because it's the only place that they can afford to shop and still feed their kids. And those are the same people, by the way, that are probably putting their bills on credit cards.
Exactly. But, I don't know. I think the national poverty level is what? living under $25,000 a year. So I would think that qualifies me and probably qualifies you too.
Oh, it qualifies me for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know, people still have this illusion that, you know, there's a middle class in America. Talk about a huge blind spot.
Well, I mean, you know, that goes a lot deeper than I can even go into right now. I mean, the fact that I used to be I was in the top 0.1% of wage earners in America, and now I haven't had health care in 5 years. I haven't had a paycheck in 4 years. I mean, it's a real turnaround, and it's not because I'm socially retarded. You know what I'm saying? It's not because I was dishonest. In fact, I was good at my job, and I was honest, and those are the two things that corporate America really doesn't want you to do, because it means you pay attention too much, and that costs them more money. You know, so it's just easier to have people like me not participate in their games, and that's what they decided, and I decided to kind of go along with it, I guess.
All right. Well, and like you said, it's not because you're a dummy, but you know, you had a higher calling, unlike the bullshit higher calling Bush talks about. You actually had a conscience and wanted to do the right thing. I constantly remind people, so far truth-telling doesn't seem to pay too well.
No, it doesn't pay too well, but I don't think what I did was special at all. I think that everyone has a conscience, and that if you realize that what you thought you knew was actually not actually true, then you would do something. And that's what I did. I said, wait, I thought I was being told the truth by our news sources. They're not telling us the truth, so that's an opportunity to do what needs to be done right now, which is get this information into the hands of the people who support the war and to support the regime in power, because they're not there lawfully and they are destroying America. And if you don't care about that, then sit on the sidelines and, you know, reap the benefits, profiteer off of it. But know that people like us are paying attention, we're getting coordinated, we're getting networked, and we're doing something about it. We're not just talking about it anymore.
Well, I think we've talked the issues to death, and it's really about taking action, you know, and I think it's a personal, individual action, and whatever it is that you do, because if you don't do something, you're going to have such a feeling of helplessness that you won't be able to get through the day without taking antidepressants.
Yeah. And that's that's Brave New World. That's what Huxley wrote about back in 1932. Everybody's got to take their medicine every day. And there's been a number of movies based on that theory. But, you know, if you go from 1932's Brave New World, where the kids don't have parents because they're all genetically, chosen and grown in test tubes in this big room, that's exactly what the people in power right now are doing to the American people and the global population. It's not in any of our best interests. So I think that we should recognize that this is going on. We should get together. We should support, Courage to Resist or Iraq Veterans Against the War, these different nonprofit groups, and make sure that those guys are being taken care of, all the veterans and first responders, because if we don't take care of them, who's going to defend us next time? And oh, by the way, those 10,000 soldiers who are AWOL because they have the courage to resist and they're starving right now, those guys could be really great allies if we could line up some resources and start coordinating and sharing the information, because those guys fought for our country and now they refuse to fight. And those are the smartest people out there as far as I'm concerned, because they're willing to think for themselves, think critically, go against the cultural, propaganda, the peer pressure, right? And do what's right, because they know that killing innocent people is wrong no matter who's telling you to do it.
Absolutely. And yet, you just still got the same, you still have your same pastors and priests blessing you before you go out and kill somebody else.
Yeah.
And I kind of keep trying to remind people that the first words Bush used for this war was a crusade.
Right.
That little slip of the tongue.
Well, and there was
got immediately.
There's also the United Technologies Crusader project that they kept funding and funding again, and that ties into Jamie Gorelick and these different people who are on the United Technologies Board of Directors, as is Christine Todd Whitman, who is, regardless of Wikipedia, is related to Bush by marriage. That's not a rumor. That's fact. So these things all do.
Admit that she was told by the White House to strike certain things out of the report and tell everybody the air was clean.
Absolutely, and that's murder in this case.
Right. So they always use the word, "Oh, we misspoke" or "we misstated," instead of saying we lied.
Not when it was calculated. They lied because it was profitable to open the stock market. It was profitable to pull the firefighters off after they had done the reconnaissance for the gold unknowingly, because they were digging for their brothers who were lost
I want the entire country to know